I spent 34 years of my life as a senior leader and executive with 2,500 plus people at one time and managing a budget of $130 million a year. And I can tell you that when it comes down to personal finance, I don't have $130 million to manage. And unlike Trevor, who has that CPA background and he likes seeing things to the penny, the accountant kind of thing, I was a bigger picture guy. So if I got close to 130 million, that was pretty good. So that's kind of what tonight's about. What you're going to see tonight, let's see if I can get this to work right. Okay, introduction. I'm going to follow along here because it's not on the back screen. Presentation that you're going to get tonight, I'm more of a football coach, right? Or a baseball coach or a tennis coach, a coach of that fashion, more than a teacher when it comes to money. So the things that you're going to hear tonight are going to be things that you likely already know. They're good, you know what money is, right? You know what credit cards are. Maybe even you know money, right? Dollar bill, $20 bill. A lot of people don't carry these anymore, right? Every time I got to break one of these, I feel pain. When I'm spending all these, 1 to 10s, not a big deal. But if I got to break a 20, it hurts. Checks. How many people know checks? I write about 3 or 4 a year. And they're typically to some young person that's trying to raise money for something. My kids all do Venmo, that kind of stuff, and other people. And then credit cards. These are the dangerous things. And there's somebody in the room I met earlier today that may have some disagreements. And I'm not here to create disagreement. I'm not here to tell you what to do and what not to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out those things that you probably already know but don't realize. So I'm hoping that you'll gain a new perspective. I hope that it will change your life in a way that you can be more honoring to God, because everything comes from God. Your time, your talents, your abilities, those things that allow you to have a job and to make money, right? To raise families. And then you get those blessings back in money, which you're able to bless others. Well, do you want to bless the credit card company? Do you want to bless the mortgage company? You want to bless the people that finance your automobile? Those kinds of things. And hopefully it's a way that you can find some peace through those biblical principles. And I'll point some of those out about debt and what that causes. I hope this is an interactive session. How many people were here for Dr. Ken Ham this weekend? Okay, I'm not Dr. Ken Ham. I'm not going to be there. But there's no wrong answer. So don't be afraid if I ask you, shout out an answer. I'm good with that. And this is a safe learning environment, okay? Save your questions for the end. We'll do that Q&A, and hopefully we'll be able to answer as many as we can. Okay, so got to push 2 buttons. All right, couple questions for you. What are some of the emotional feelings that you have or experience when it comes to money? Trevor covered some of those last week. Anybody want to name a couple of those off?
Dopamine.
What's that?
Yeah, dopamine hit.
Dopamine hit. What about stress? Does it cause stress when you got a bill that's due and you're not sure that you got enough to pay it? What about rent? What about groceries? What about gas in your car with gas prices? What about the things that you like to do? Going to movies, going out for coffee, going out for meals, those kinds of things. All those things, some of them bring joy, but at the end of the month, when you look at your credit card statement or you're looking at your bank account, it's like, where did it all go? It causes stress, right? Where do you think those emotions manifest in your life? Relationships, absolutely. Whether you have a spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, I get stressed out every time my kids do something crazy like buy a big house with 3 air conditioners and go, you realize that your electric bill is going to be $1,000 a month in the summer? No, I didn't think about that. We really like this house. Okay, right? So it causes emotions in those relationships with those people around you. And some of it shows up in your work, shows up at school. Grades drop because you're stressed out about things. Okay, what do you think what do you think you would be able to experience if your confidence grew in the management of your personal finance? Peace. What else? Confidence, right? We're going to talk a little bit about that today with doing a budget. And I know that people will go, oh, the dreaded budget. But it really helps. It helps you know where your money's going. Okay? So, as Jeremiah mentioned in the very first session, really focused on the biblical pieces, 2,350 times, more than 2,350 times it talks about money. Trevor and I have had people come to the FPU class here in the fall and say, money's a bad word. Money's not a bad word. Money's a blessing from the Lord, and it's how you handle it and where your heart is with it, right? That's what it's really about. And some people struggle with that, the heart piece of it, about bringing glory and honor to God. So these are some opportunities. I'm sorry, I didn't change the slide. Trying to do 2 things at once. And you work hard for your money, right? I don't think there's anybody here that has a job that doesn't put everything into their effort for that job, right? Whether you love it or you hate it, that job is what really, where you share your talents and your abilities, and then you grow treasures from that you can bless yourself and bless others. Many work to live, to pay for our needs, our wants, our desires, and in some cases, a place in society. Have you ever heard Keeping Up with the Joneses? You know what Dave Ramsey says about keeping up with the Joneses? The Joneses are broke, right? They're driving the nice BMW or Mercedes. They're living in the big house, right? Those kinds of things. So if you're trying to earn income for your place in society, your heart's in the wrong place. It's absolutely in the wrong place. Those are the treasures that you should be cherishing and honoring God with those. Bring glory to Him. If you spend, simple fact, if you spend more than you make, you have debt. And with debt comes interest. Anybody heard what interest is? Right? It costs you more. So if you buy something and you put it on a credit card or you take a loan for it, you're going to pay interest for that. Somebody's going to charge you for your money. So that $1,000 item that you bought, that you're going to pay for over a year, let's say, it's going to cost you $1,250. Is it worth $1,000 to begin with? And now it's $1,250 that you paid for it. And will it be worth $1,250 at the end? Probably not. So Albert Einstein, some of you may have heard, had a saying, those who understand interest earn it. Those who don't pay it. Very simple fact. So if you know what it is and you understand it, you can earn interest. That means that your money can grow. That means not only can it grow, but in my mind, earnest is blessing others because you're paying it forward. You're paying forward the blessings that Lord gave you. All right, some key points. And I'm sorry the slide formats are a little different. I had them formatted in 14.3 and we needed them 16.9 for this. So there were some edits that we had to do last minute and they didn't all get adjusted as I'd hoped. So managing personal finance is a simple math equation. You heard Trevor last week say a little bit different. For me, everybody understands addition and subtraction. That's really all it is. It's addition and subtraction. So goes back to that income versus expenses And if you have more income than expenses, you're able to save and you're able to give. Give those blessings to the church, give those blessings to your friends and family, give those to people in need, those people in need, right? But if your expenses are more than your income, you're going to generate some debt. You're likely to generate debt. Maybe not immediately, but over time, if you continue that behavior, you will generate debt. And does anybody here not know what income they have coming? You don't know what income you have coming. So I'm using it in maybe a metaphorical way. So if you have a job and you're going to get a paycheck, you know how many hours you worked, you know what your salary was, you know what your federal tax, state tax, withholdings, and those kinds of things are. So you know what you have coming in was kind of my point with that question. So you know what's coming in. The question is, do you know where it's all going once you get it? You don't if you're using one of these because you lose track of it. Even if you look at it every day, you know where it's going away. Whereas if you use cash, as your wallet goes empty, it's like, uh-oh, I'm running out of money. This thing's unlimited up to your credit limit. And checks, you can write bad checks. Guess what? Bad checks cost you money. They charge you an overdraw fee. They charge you all kinds of other fees. I haven't bounced a check and I don't even know how long because I only write a few. But anyway, the question really is, do you know where those expenses are going? And if you don't have a budget or a way to manage those and a plan for those, then you're draining out your income. What happens if you have an unexpected emergency? You need a set of tires. I used last week an unexpected emergency of a dishwasher going out, which really wasn't an emergency, right? But if you need a car for transportation to go to work or to go to school, and your starter doesn't work, your battery dies, like in the heat out here, they only last a couple of years, you have this unplanned expenses. If you got money in the bank or cash in your pocket, you pay for it. You're not taking on debt. You put it on one of these, and now you've lost track of it. And then that monthly end-of-month bill comes, or whenever your billing cycle happens to be, and now you've got this large bill. Is my pace going okay? Everybody all right? All right. All right, again, budget, simple math. That's not simple math over there on the right. It just happened to be some mathematical equation that I found on the design thing for PowerPoint. Simple math equation where you take your income and you subtract your expenses. Again, pluses and minuses. You end your month or your statement ending, and you got some money left over, and you're putting more money in next paycheck you get, for instance. A budget also helps you decide in advance where your money's going to go. I got to pay my rent. I got to pay my electricity. I got to pay for my gas. I got to pay for car insurance. I got to pay for food, right? We call them the four walls, and we'll cover that in a little bit more detail. And then if you save money for emergencies and you have unplanned expenses, you just take care of them. There's no stress of later in the month when that bill comes and go, oh my goodness, how am I going to pay that? Well, I can't pay it all, so I'll just pay the 3% that they charge me. And we're going to talk about how much that costs you at the end of the day in a few slides. So a budget helps you set aside those emotional feelings so that you're not feeling that stress later. Because what ends up happening is that debt grows, the stress grows. And as the stress grows, it becomes more often. Every time that you got to use the credit card and you go up and, oh, sorry, your credit card's been rejected. And you got to raise your credit limit. Or if you're using a debit card and you're not keeping track, right? If there's not enough money for a debit, guess what happens? It's the same thing as writing a check that bounces. There's extra fees that go on top of it. So now you pay $25 or $35 for an overdraft expense. So it's really about having that plan on what you're going to take your income and what you're going to spend it on. All right, it's not, oh, there it goes. Okay, so this budget didn't quite show up as I had hoped, but that's my fault because I didn't put it on a darker background. So basically, you start by listing your income. That's what's up in that upper left-hand box right below Quick Start. We suggest during FPU, and I think you heard Jeremiah say it about, because somebody had a question about tithing, right? We suggest you start with giving. Put a number in there. Put a number in there. And it might be 10%, it might be 5%, it might be whatever it is, but put something in there. Because remember, all this money is God's money, it's not ours. We're just there as stewards to manage it. So give through tithing, supporting mission activities, those kinds of things. The next box down is savings, right? So make savings part of your budget. Set $20 aside. Set $40 aside, whatever it is. And then you start getting into protecting those four walls that I mentioned earlier. Your housing, your utilities, your food, and your transportation. Those four things keep you going, keep you being able to rest, keeps you nourished, gives you transportation to get to work or school, whatever that case may be, right? So those are those four walls. You want to protect those every time. And then list your other expenses. So everything down the left-hand column, the ones under a Quick Start budget, those are income, giving, savings, food, utilities, housing, and transportation. The right column has insurance, car insurance, health insurance, renter's insurance, right? If you rent an apartment. Debt. So credit cards, student loans. We've had people come to our class with $130,000 worth of student loans. In their career, they'll probably never pay it off. And guess what? That's one thing that you can't claim if you do a bankruptcy. Thank you. Now, current administration is doing some student loan debt forgiveness, right? But is that going to happen? Is it going to happen every time? Is it going to be $130,000? Probably not. It's going to be much smaller than that. And that's something that you got to pay back. Car loans, medical expenses. Some people, like myself, I don't have a really good medical insurance plan. I'm a retired guy, so I pay a lot of money. And if I don't use it, that's just a lot of money I paid out. But if I do use it, then I got a high deductible. And that means I got to pay those bills too. And that's debt on me, not the insurance company. They don't take over until I've paid $8,000 on top of the $17,000 I paid for insurance premiums. Right? At the end of the day, those numbers start really adding up. Fund money. So my wife and I, this is fund money. Fund money comes in cash. People that know me and know me well know that I stop at QT every time I'm at this church, whether it's for a church service, for a class, for anything. Always head down the street to QT. Those people know me by first name. Half the time they're like, oh, you just came from church, didn't you? Right? But they know I stop there for an iced tea just about every time. And like I said, when I'm just spending these, I don't worry too much. But when I pull one of these out, they even look at me sometimes, a couple of them, Matt being one of them specifically. He looks at me and goes, that hurts, doesn't it? Because I've told him, I said, it hurts every time we got to break that $20 bill. So fund money. My wife and I do that. We each get a monthly fund money allowance, and we can spend on anything we want. No questions asked. I don't ask her. She doesn't ask me. And sometimes when I do the budget, I put in there $200 for Joe and $100 for Leslie. Because you know why? I want to make sure she looked at the budget. Because she's like, well, you do the budget, you take care of it. Okay, I'm taking 200, I'm going to leave you 100. She's like, wait a minute. How come you got 200 and I only got 100? Oh, I must have made a mistake. I'm going to have to give you 200 this month, honey. Sorry. Right? But I do that, and I do that with other categories, but the fund money is always the fun one because that's the first place she always looks. And then there's the miscellaneous. There's other expenses. Look at these two up here. They're probably going, that's a nice trick. Okay, sorry. So at the end of the day, that blue box is your total income minus your total expenses. And really what you want to do is try and get that at zero, right? So that all of your money has a plan. If you find that your expenses are more than your income, make some adjustments. Reduce your fund money. Reduce your, pick one. Look for ways to reduce your insurance, whether it's probably not your term life, because those are typically pretty fixed, but your insurance, raise your deductible a little bit. Auto insurance, raise your deductible a little bit. Because if you've got a $250, $300, $500 deductible, and you've never had a car accident like me, all I'm doing is paying the insurance company more. I'd rather have that money myself and have a $1,000 deductible because I know that the likelihood of it happening is pretty small. Now, if I have an accident tonight on the way home, I'm going to be really upset. I'll be calling Jeremiah. Come help me. Okay, so any questions? This is just really a very plain, basic budget. On the handouts that we gave, there's 2 links at the bottom. You're going to see everything that I've got tonight are going to be on one of those 2 links. Rather than send you, here's a way to budget, here's a way to budget, here's a way to budget, there's hundreds of ways. I use an Excel spreadsheet. I believe that Trevor does as well. Dave Ramsey, the Financial Peace University guy, has every dollar. That's good for some people. I don't particularly care for it, but I know how to use it, right? And then there's other simple forms just like this one. And you can go print them out and fill them out. And if you're really good, you can probably figure out a way that'll calculate it for you. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, if I can get to change, it's buzzing in my hand. Oop, now I got to go back, sorry. Okay, next let's talk about debt. So here's just a couple verses from the Bible. So Romans 11:36. From him and through him and to him are all things. To him be glory forever. Amen. Proverbs 22:7. Dave Ramsey says the Proverbs is a financial class if you just read it, right? The rich rules over the poor and the borrower is slave to the lender. That means that somebody's controlling your blessings because you're passing it on. I think last week we mentioned mortgage brokers. You know why they call them mortgage brokers? Because they make you broker, right? And think about the house that you live in or that you lived in with your parents, 2,500 square feet, 4,000 square feet, whatever it is. Go look at those high-rise buildings that banks own, Bank of America, Transamerica, pick one, Citibank. Those are giant buildings filled with rooms and filled with people, all wearing nice clothes, driving nice cars, making good money. You know how they make money? Off people like us that go into debt and pay interest. Deuteronomy says, if you are faithful in obeying God's commandments, you will be blessed and able to lend, not borrow. That's straight out of the Bible. It's right there. You're able to lend. Well, sometimes lending isn't lending where you lend it to somebody and you expect to be paid back. Sometimes it's blessing someone else. Maybe they're having a hard time. Maybe they can't afford groceries. Maybe they're a single mom's out buying books and backpacks and stuff for their kids, right? And you see them go to the cashier and they can't pay for it all. And something has to go back. Right? And then you stand there, wait a minute, I can't do that. And you help them out. Say, hey, don't worry about that. Keep that in your basket. Take it home. And you pay for it, right? You're able to bless others with what you've been blessed with. So what's that mean today? What do those Bible verses mean today? The Bible's really, in my mind, the book of life. It tells you how to lead your life, how to honor God. Anybody got anything they want to add to that? That word slave kind of carries a negative connotation in America, right? And all the way back through biblical times. So this is your opportunity to free yourself of that bondage, to find peace, and to honor God and the blessings that He gave you and us. Okay, so let's get into some coach stuff. Where's my credit card guy? Okay. American households carry I went out and checked this out about a month ago when Jeremiah agreed to let us do this. Average is $7,951 in credit card debt. Now, that's an average. That means that there's some with less, and that means that there's some with more, and there's some with none, right? Minimum payments are typically 2 to 3%. Some are 2, some are 2.5, some are 3, but 2 to 3%. The average interest rates on credit cards right now is 17%. They might have got you with a teaser rate, but guess what? As soon as that 12-month period's over, or that initial, I'll call it the honeymoon phase, is over, then you go to whatever they're charging. And guess what? It can go up. It can go up from there. And they tell you that that's annual percentage rate. Has nothing to do with annual percentage rate. It has to do with how much debt you have at that moment at the end of the month and how long you've had it within that month. And that's how it's calculated. So think about it. If you're getting charged 17% interest and you're only paying 2 or 3%, what's going on there? Isn't that kind of backwards? That you're paying them 17% on top of what you already paid out, and the net gain is really, you're losing 14% every time you make a payment. So don't be fooled by that APR thing. It's not APR. It's not annual percentage rate. It's on that monthly outstanding balance. So now let's talk particulars and what it costs. And this will shock some. Okay, minimum payment, 2.5%. That includes interest on $10,000 if you never put an other thing on a credit card that's charging 17% interest and you're only paying 2.5%. It takes you 53.5 years to pay it off to zero. That's not adding anything else. That's just paying that interest that has accumulated. And what you spent for $10,000, you would have paid $38,218.97 in interest. So you're paying 4 times what you originally charged just for that $10,000. Again, that's if you're just doing minimum payments. If you take that and you say, well, what if I did monthly payments of $249? I just rounded around to make it easier on math. I am a bit of a math nerd. It'd take you 60 months, so 5 years to pay off that same $10,000 if you're paying $250 a month. Wow. And that's $4,949 in interest. So $5,000 in interest, so basically 50% of what you charged, you're going to pay on interest over a period of 5 years. Does that make sense to anybody? Doesn't that kind of seem backwards? If you go back to Albert Einstein's, theory, those that understand interest earn it, those that don't pay it. It's right there in front of us. We see it, but I don't think we really realize over time what it can cost us and the impacts it makes. Okay, next one, car loan. And a couple of people came up and talked to me about car loans last week. You buy a car for $30,000, you put $5,000 down, and your interest rate's 10%. That's probably a little high right now. I don't know. Haven't had a car loan in a long time. And you do the period of payments over 5 years. So 60 months, monthly payment's going to be $531. What can you do with $531 a month? Right? Just to drive that nice car.
That's your monthly payment?
That's a monthly payment. If over 5 years for a $30,000 car. So if you think about that and you start doing the math, the $30,000, you put $5,000 down, so you finance $25,000. The total cost for that $30,000 car, $36,871, or $6,871 in interest. That's 22% of what you paid for the car just went for interest as you pay it off in that 5 years. What about driving an old clunker? What about taking that $531 that you can afford and putting that into a savings account where you can earn some interest, right? So that when you got $5,000 or $10,000, you go buy a $10,000 car. And then you wait a couple more years and now you got another 10 grand. And now you take that $10,000 car that's probably worth $6,500 or $7,000 and you trade that in and you buy a $17,000 car. And you just keep doing that until you're buying a brand spanking new car, $60,000, $70,000, and you're paying cash for it. The dealer, of course, is going to look at you and go, you don't want to do that. You want to finance. We can give you a break on this and that. Well, make the deal that way and then bring them in a cashier's check. And their jaw will drop because they're used to, what do they ask you when you go to buy a car at a car lot? Yep, what can you afford? What do you want your payment to be? And then they back into it. Oh, well, you know, we can't get you in 60 months. Well, we're going to do 84 months. How's that sound? Oh, that's a great idea. You just really signed up for 84 months? That's worse than this scenario, right? And it's probably going to be a higher interest rate if you have a lower credit rating. And credit ratings are overrated. If they're not credit ratings, they're debt ratings. You can't have one unless you got debt. Questions about car loan?
Honestly, it's the daily interest that kills you.
Yep,
It's not really like what the month says,
exactly.
because your PM is what dictates how much money is going to your principal balance.
Right.
And if you
They always take interest first, right?
interest gets paid first, no matter what.
No matter what.
Car loan is simple interest.
Yep. And it's the same way for a mortgage, by the way. So if you have a $1,000 mortgage payment, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, guys. Oh, delay. All right. Another one, sorry, I didn't put in a dark background. But the example on the left really shows what those graphs on the right show, and I'll explain them. So $425,000 house. You can probably still buy a house in this area for around $425,000. It's not going to be the big fancy 4,000 square foot house with a swimming pool and a 5-car garage and blah, 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 blah. But it's going to be a nice, simple home. $85,000 down. Whew, that's a big chunk of money. That's more than a lot of people make in a year, but let's say that that's what you got. $85,000 down. You do a 30-year fixed interest. When I did this about a month and a half ago, it was 6.750. You would have paid for that $425,000 house over that 30-year loan $878,884. Now, maybe it's going to be worth that much, but maybe it's not. All that money went somewhere. It went toward interest. As this young man said, interest gets paid first. So if your mortgage payment, let's say, is $1,000 a month, $985 goes to interest, and a little bit comes out on the principal. And oh, by the way, they tell you that the mortgage payment is going to be X, but they don't tell you about insurance. They don't tell you about taxes that get added on top. So if they tell you your payment's going to be $1,500 a month, your mortgage payment, Well, plan on it being about $1,800 a month because they're going to throw in insurance because guess what? They want to protect their asset because they own it, not you. You don't own it until it's paid off. So they want that. And guess what? It's not Uncle Sam because it's at the state level, right? But the governor wants their cut too, right? Maricopa County, state of Arizona. So again, $878,000. The graph here shows the loan, $340. Looks like I probably missed something there. Interest paid, $453,000. Total, $793. And you wouldn't pay it off till July 2054. Think about how old you'll be in July 2054. I probably won't be around because I won't tell you how old I would be, but I'd be really old. Might live that long, maybe not. So mortgage, I'm not discouraging mortgage, right? Most people, their biggest investment is in a mortgage or in a home. But don't go buy a home just because you got to keep up with the Joneses. Remember my comment earlier? Trying to keep up with the Joneses, you're doing two things. One, you're trying to get your social influence with your money, right? Where you fit in society. And at the end of the day, somebody else's that you're trying to keep up with, they're broke. They're struggling to make their mortgage payment. They're struggling to make that car payment. They're struggling for everything. And they have those stresses too. Okay. Let's see if I can go back one. Sorry, this thing's giving me a little bit of fit. Guess I got to pause. Okay, that's the right one. Sorry. Okay, so Hebrews 12:11, ESV says, "For the moment, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later yields peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who've been trained by it." So it goes back to that budget. It ain't going to be easy, folks, right? If you're in debt, it's definitely not going to be easy. So getting out, it's a lesson. It's kind of like, okay, I get it, Lord. I made some bad decisions or was about to make some bad decisions. Let's back up. Let me rethink this. So the first thing that we recommend is have that $1,000 emergency fund. That way, if you need a new set of tires, you need a battery, all those things that became stressful events because you put it on one of these, now you just pay like this and you're done. You can forget about it and move on. You don't have that worry. And at the end of the day, as you deplete that, using it for emergencies, not to go to Starbucks, not to go to Dutch Brothers, not to go to wherever people eat out these days, right? But real emergencies, things that keep you from protecting those four walls, right? Your shelter, your utilities, your transportation, and your food. And avoid using credit card as a resource. Sometimes you got to because you don't have that. But that's the first thing to start working for. So on that budget, after giving with savings, start building that $1,000 savings account, right? That's the first thing that you want to do. Then the debt snowball. Some of you might have heard this. It's like, oh, I don't know what that really means. I'm going to walk you through it. It's simple, very simple. So you list out all your debts, all of them. Then you list them out, smallest to largest. And then you start attacking the smallest debt. So you pay minimum payments on all the bigger ones, and you take that small one and you put more money toward it, right? Because what happens is now you get some motivation. You get some comfort because you accomplish something. You pay that smallest one off first. And a lot of people will tell you, oh, shouldn't I pay the one that has the highest interest? Or shouldn't I pay this one? Or shouldn't I pay that one? Mathematically, it calculates out. It's about the same, if not a little bit worse. The difference is you don't have the accomplishment. You don't have that ability to knock out that debt. And that includes, if it's a credit card, cut it up. Don't use it anymore. Because if you just Or if you do consolidated debt, we have a lot of people ask that question. Hey, somebody offered me I could put all my credit cards into one and I get 0% for 12 months. Guess what you're going to do with those other credit cards? You're going to run them right back up. So now you got that big one that you just consolidated everything into, plus you got all the small ones that you just moved over, and they're filling up again. And then you're going, oh my goodness, what did I do? And then you take that extra money and then you attack the next smallest one and the next smallest one. And you just keep on going until you're down to none. No debt. Other than your house, no debt. That includes your car payment, includes your medical bills, all those extra expenses that have been building up and holding you down. Does that make sense? And Trevor and I are available to talk more about that in detail. You got our information down there. Reach out to us. This sometimes is a little complicated for some people to get. It is actually pretty simple. Once you get it, it's like, oh yeah, okay, now I get it. Okay. All right. A few more biblical items. So Proverbs 21:20, again, the Dave Ramsey, it's the financial classes, right? Precious treasure and oil in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours it. Means they're basically eating up all their treasures, right? That's the ESV version. Proverbs 20:21 in the TLB version says, the wise man saves for the future, but the foolish man spends whatever he gets. It's a little bit more to the point, right? So I thought I'd throw the same verse in, just a different version. So as soon as you get through all that debt, again, everything but your mortgage, if you're a homeowner, start a fully funded emergency fund. And that's 3 to 6 months of your expenses in a savings account. Why is that important? 3 to 6 months. Anybody got an idea? Job loss. You get fired. Yep, you get fired. You move out of state, right? You move to a new area and you got to start over. You got to find a job. You got to find a house. If you got 3 to 6 months, guess where your stress level goes? It's not way up here because you got all this debt. It's down here because you can get by for 3 to 6 months. And if you can't find a job in 3 to 6 months, it's probably time to start looking at a different career or something different, right? Because you got to keep that income coming and use your time and your talents to do that. This is, again, based on your stability of income. So if you're a single person and only got one income, then I would say bump it up to 6 months, right? Get a bigger pad. If you're married and you both have government jobs or a job that's pretty stable, like teaching, school, working for the government, say law enforcement, something like that, you can probably get by on three months because you're not going to feel that stress for very long. And the likelihood of you losing your job, unless it's a medical issue, is probably pretty small. This protects you and helps you survive the loss of a job, change in career, or a long distance move. So the answers were right there. Any questions on staying out of debt? Again, it's about building that up so that you can protect your four walls, you can protect your income, you can be wise spenders, you can give more, you can lend if that's your desire. But again, it goes back to blessings. And I put that picture on there because you're starting at the bottom of the hill, right? But once you get to the top, do you want to go back down and have to climb it again? No. You want to stay at the top of the hill, right? You've already planted that flag. You've already had that success. Saving for the future. So Trevor and I love talking about this because Trevor's really good at it because he's an accountant. So he has all these, he's got probably one sinking fund, but it's got a bunch of subcategories to it. I have two. One's for new cars. So the money that I would spend on making a car payment, that goes into that new car fund. And guess what? If I need a new set of tires, I got to spend money for transmission problems, whatever, comes out of my car fund. And then I have one for vacations. And I put that money away so that when I decide to go on vacation, like next year, my wife and I are going to do a 12-day British Isles cruise that is costing like a crazy amount of money. I already got the money saved for it. So when the bill comes, I write one of these, and I'm done. And I go enjoy myself, and I don't worry about how am I going to pay for this when I get home. Or I put it on a credit card. Now how am I going to pay for it? Because I spent a lot of money on it, and now I got to pay 17% interest on top of it. So starting a sinking fund, setting that money aside. So again, new car, vacation, a large purchase, maybe it's a home. I don't want to give away the privacy of what the church does, but the church has a building fund. That's a sinking fund. Guess what that's for? For maintenance on this building and a future site for a bigger church, a bigger location, one that's more accommodating to our congregation and our members and our attenders, right? So think about that. If you took a new car account or vacation account, whichever you want, and you put $400 a month away, in 10 months you got $4,000. Where'd that $4,000 come from? Oh my goodness. That's only 10 months. You do that for 2 years, now you got $10,000. Guess what? You want to go buy that new car? You deserve it. You worked hard. And guess what you do with what you would have paid that $531 car payment? You put it right back in the sinking fund, start building it up for the next one. Or again, tires, any kind of major repairs on that car. So lots of different ways to do sinking funds. I know Trevor has a number of them, much different than me. I have two. I'm pretty simple about that. So Ecclesiastes says, for protection of wisdom is like the protection of money. And the advantage of knowing is that wisdom preserves the life of him who has it, right? You want to be able to enjoy. The Lord wants you to have joy. The Lord wants you to be blessed. He wants you to be good stewards of the time and the treasure and all the things that he gives you in life. And then Proverbs, again, Proverbs, wow. Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but those who gather little by little will increase it. So start small. Start small. It only takes a little bit of effort. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up. I think I got it pretty close to the time that I said I would. Can I change that slide? Okay, so as a wrap up, there's things that you can do, right? And I kind of got these out of order, but it fit the design. So be thankful for all the blessings and pray for wisdom, right? Pray with others about having wisdom about your choices and how you spend your money, right? Whether it's tithing, whether it's giving, whether it's blessing others, or it's using those things as a good steward to bring joy that the Lord wants you to have. Consider Financial Peace University. The last 2-3 years, we've done it now in October. I don't know if we'll get it set up for this October, but we're going to try. And we're going to try and get another class on top of that in early spring or summer. That's always a capacity issue for the church that we've got to work on. And remember, it starts in your heart, right? It all starts in your heart. And if you need help, reach out. You got Trevor, myself. There's several other trained financial master coaches that we've all been through the Ramsey training. And Jeremiah and I talked about that in the very beginning. Dave Ramsey and Ramsey Solutions, I'd say probably 10 years ago, started to transition and become a little bit more biblical. They always preached that they were biblical. They've gotten better, but nothing like what you guys have gotten these last 3 sessions. But Trevor and I have had that experience where we've been through it ourselves maybe. I know I have. I was there when I was a young 21-year-old person. Once I hit 30, everything changed for me. So reach out to us. We have tools. We have suggestions. Our job is to be a coach, right? We're not going to do it for you. The coach doesn't play the football, baseball, basketball game, right? They coach the players. So we're going to coach you on how to do those things. We'll help you. We'll give you advice. We'll tell you what works, what doesn't work, what to avoid. And then we can help you with some other tools as well and resources. And we can pray with you every single time. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close this in prayer, and then we'll set up for a Q&A. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for these people that come together as RPM. We thank you so much for the blessing of Trevor, myself, and Jeremiah to teach and preach to them on being good stewards of your treasures. And we, Lord, we know that everything comes from you, and we know that you are such a graceful and giving God. And we really want to know that in our hearts are in the right place, and that we do everything to bring you glory and to bring you honor and to worship you. So with that, we hope that tonight's session and the Q&A to follow answers those questions, changes minds, changes hearts, opens those things up, and gives us an opportunity to share in the wisdom that we've gathered, and all those things that we have gathered in wisdom came from you as well. It's these things we pray in your name. Amen.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to our Redeemer YouTube channel. If this is helpful for you, please make sure that you like this video, smash the subscribe button, and hit that bell icon. It will help us reach more people with biblical truth. Thank you so much.